We do a lot of acquisition and merger work at National Diversified Funding Corporation. However, with the work that we do with companies, we don't start with acquisitions and mergers because that is not our unique proposition. I would say our unique proposition in the acquisitions and merger field is when we take a client, whether they're wanting to sell their business or to buy another business, the first thing we do is we tell them, look around. Like if you want a one-off transaction, we don't do that. What we do is we start with them building a strategic plan. In other words, like if they are buying companies, we want them to answer the question, like, what do they want the business to look like when it is all grown up? What do they want their end result to be? Then we look at where they are now and how can we engineer the right path and process to get them to their final destination. And they might, very often we'll try and do that with limited resources, using, how can we get them through to the final destination with the limited resources. And we try and map out that plan in such a way that with every step there is going to be value added to every transaction, which is going to make the company being purchased when it is finally sold way more valuable than it was before. So because all they're doing, all the typical business owner entrepreneur is doing is, if they're buying a company and they're running the company the way the company was always run, they will struggle to pay back the price that they paid for the company over many years, because the real value of the company which has been acquired is usually being paid to the owner. And the ideal situation is to add value after the acquisition, and this becomes the value paid to you when it is time to sell, which would enable you to pay off the previous owner really quickly and start making a huge profit out of the deal, which is the point of being in business. And this means more business owners generally they leave money on the table when they don't bear this in mind with regard to the deals they make. So we want the clients to think about, how do they get the full value out of the business? Well, here are a few insights, because it really comes down to developing that strategic plan of how each acquisition you make is going to be more valuable to you than the person who sold it to you. And here's basically some of the ways or an idea in a way in which we do that. So let's say the company doing the acquisition is buying a competitor. This is your typical acquisition strategy. Well, it's very hard to add value to a competitor unless you work very hard on ways with your processes, your internal processes, the way you function internally. Or you could look at lowering your costs or get economy of scale from your suppliers. So it's very hard to add some significant value to, if you're going down the road of buying up your competitors. I mean, you'll grow in volume and maybe you are increasing your margins, here and there, which is still worth doing. But suppose, for example, there was a company out there that distributed the products you manufacture. Well, a nice move, this would be a nice move. And if you could look to, say, acquiring a distributor, which means you'll be able to take the distribution pattern of the newly acquired company, the distribution company, and move more of its distribution to pushing the product you manufacture. So if you can do that successfully, then the company has a value which is now twofold. One is the profitability value it has when you bought it, which is what you probably planned for. And then the other is the increase of value to your core business, because it will increase the sales of your core business. And so now you have a second value you did not pay for. And that value belongs completely to you and not the seller you bought it from. So this helps you pay off the transaction of the acquisition way faster than it did before, or it would have done if you had just bought the competitor. So one of the best examples of this is from our chairman, Gordon Bizarre, at National Diversified Funding Corporation. And there was a company in New York way back in probably the 60s, early 70s. And this company was owned by a brilliant engineer. The organization was called the Catheter Organization, and it was owned by a guy called Norman Jekyll. And this company worked in partnership with another guy out in Houston, Texas, whose name was Dr. Dubecki. And this is a very famous doctor. This is a guy who pioneered the artificial arteries and valves and material and procedures for putting these life-saving products into people. And one of the things which made Dr. Dubecki so successful was his brilliance and his relationship with Norman Jekyll, because what Norman did was design and manufacture all the patented material Dr. Dubecki needed, basically making the vision real. Vision being heart valves, pacemakers, actually manufactured. So Gordon's dad had worked on behalf of this company, was kind of doing their estate planning over time. And one day Norman approached him and asked him about an offer which had been made for the company to sell for $3 million. Now, adjusting for 1960s, this would be worth about $30 million today. So Gordon's dad thought about it, and he told Norman to hold out for another option, because there might be more value to the company than just its profitability, which would be worth the $3 million. But the thing this company had, which made it highly valuable, had to do with the company who were wishing to buy it. The company who were wishing to buy it were called Bard Chemical Company. And Bard Chemical Company, wishing to acquire Norman's company, had a distribution network into all of the elite hospitals across the United States and some in other parts of the world. So Bard Chemical, they realized that in order to sell through more of their product line, they could use the life-saving must-have factor of the heart valve products as a lead generator and a condition of sale to funnel through their existing product lines. Essentially, they will be holding the hospitals to ransom. The proposition is, if you want our life-saving, pioneering heart valve equipment and products, you must buy our other products. So Gordon's father figured this out and figured out the value of the heart valve company was much more valuable than the $3 million the company was initially willing to pay for this reason. And in the end, they managed to get the heart valve company, Norman's company, sold to Bard Chemical for $30 million, which would be a deal of $300 million today. adjusted for inflation. And the reason Bard Chemical were willing to pay this large value price was because this purchase was a strategic one. It was a strategic purchase, a dual value to their company. So if you are a seller of a business, it behooves you to position your company to a strategic buyer, someone who in the end is willing to pay more than the asking price on the open market. So there you have it, really. And for more tools and articles, go to www.sagetactics.com. And if you are interested in our private equity company and how we work with people and finance their transactions, go to www.nationaldiversified.com. I'm Alfred Angelo for Sage Tactics, representing National Diversified Funding Corporation UK.